Wow.
Wow. Plants. This has been movie time.
Hello, my darling. What are you doing?
I am doing our second extract cut.
What do you mean second extract cut?
So we steep all of our botanical extracts twice because there's still a lot of flavor in them after the first time we cut them, and so we decided to put basically the same liquid over top of, or new liquid over top of the same botanicals the second time.
So how do you make the extracts to begin with?
You basically just mix 24% mead, so mead with a little bit of spirit in it, over top of dried botanicals, and all the flavor gets extracted out of those botanicals. We're basically making mead infusions.
Why 24%?
That way it is stable, it won't ferment on its own while it's sitting there. And another reason is because flavors can be water and alcohol soluble, and you'll get different flavors depending on whether they are in like a water-based thing, which would be the mead, or alcohol-based, which is the spirit. So by doing 24%, you get a little bit of just a greater range of flavor. Yeah, so we did the first round, and then we put more meat on there, and now we're cutting.
What's this one?
This is elderflower. And so what's really cool is we can use our little...
Oh yeah, this was
table.
the uncapping table that we did all of our uncappings in, which now we also use for extract cutting.
Basically, we're double straining it, or I guess I'm triple straining it, but this will
What's
go
that
through.
thing?
This is through our medium gauge sieve, I would call. And I'm just pressing down to get as much.
No, I meant what's the thing you're pressing down on?
Oh, it's just like a potato masher.
Yeah.
So yeah, getting out all of the as much liquid as possible, especially because it's the second steep. That I guess technically goes for a second layer with this little uncapping box, and then we have, I guess again, technically 2 layers here. So really fine mesh strainer. That's the one Quinn was saying. We're actually not using that for the honey because it's slow. It's so slow for the honey to get through.
But it works really well for this process.
Perfect for this. Sits in the bucket. This one absorbs so much liquid. I mean, you could be here all day if you were trying to really.
Yeah, there's a lot coming out.
Yeah.
But also by steeping this twice, we reduce our loss, because I think before, when we were just steeping once, we were experiencing like a 25 to 40% loss, whereas now I think our loss ranges anywhere from 7 to 15%.
Well, you think about this, so it's what, this one's like 8 kilos that we put on.
Yeah.
So the first time we cut this one, we were getting 25-ish kilos in between 3 buckets, and we only got like 18 kilos out. But now, this time when I do it, we put, again, the 25 kilos in, and we're gonna get really close to that 25 kilos because when you're doing the first steep, the dry botanicals are gonna absorb a lot more.
Yeah, because they're totally dry, so you're basically rehydrating them.
Yeah, and so then when you do the second one, they're already pretty hydrated, so you're gonna get a much better...
Well, yeah, they'd be totally saturated, so you're not gonna have that loss in the second time, which helps basically, you can kind of think of it as almost cutting our loss in half.
Yeah.
Why'd you swirl it around?
So that it doesn't, all the liquid doesn't come out, and then it's one clump, and then it just like falls.
Right.
So these are just gonna end up being composted. Ooh, I meant to check that beforehand. I meant to only pour half of that one in. Oopsie.
Did
It's like, right, it's very full. Yeah, that's the limit. Yeah, oopsie.
What happens after it goes into a bucket? Do you filter it or something?
No, because we're doing this basically like double filtration there.
No, but I mean to get all of the stuff, like all the fine particles and stuff, do you run it through a filter or something? Like what do you do?
No. put it into glass containers as full as possible, so there's no oxygen, so it doesn't oxidize. And then we just let it settle out. So we don't filter, it just all the really fine sediment goes to the bottom. And then when we're blending our extract blend, we only tilt it and we try and leave as much of that sediment.
Yeah, we rack
see all
off.
the sediment.
Yeah, so we don't use like an industrial filter kind of thing because it strips flavor and you also get loss. So instead, we put things into glass or stainless steel jars and whatnot, and let all of that sediment just kind of settle out to the bottom, and then we pour off the clear stuff on the top and leave all of the sediment behind. It takes longer, obviously, than just filtering in one go, but it does the trick and preserves the flavor and aromatics, especially because we limit headspace as much as we can. And once we get up to Nanaimo, we'll be able to make our own compost out of all of this stuff, and then use it to grow more botanicals. Thursday, Friday, like tomorrow, I gotta do all our deliveries, but then I don't think we have any production booked for Friday.
Okay, this is interesting. So the first cut that we did, like I said, it was about 18 kilos, 17.6. And this, just with the 2 buckets, was 17.35. So you can see how much more yield you get.
Yeah.
Because I still got this whole
Next bucket to do.
next bucket to weigh. So that's why we do the double steep.
Wow.
Wow.
Okay. Best dad joke ever.
Oh, I don't know. You can't put me on the spot.
Dads are always put on the spot, and yet they somehow come up with it every single time.
What's your best dad?
I don't know. I don't have one. I'm not dad yet.
Well, that's the same could be said for me.
Oh.
We are further along in our Fast and the Furious series watch.
It has gotten
We just
so
watched the
ridiculous.
space one, and it was too much. I mean, I've had a great time,
It's been entertaining,
but it is so ridiculous.
and I think they're quite aware of just how over the top ridiculous it is.
Oh, 100%.
Like even in the movie, they start joking about it, how they've just been able to survive the most insane things.
But yeah, that's where we're at for movie watch this week. We didn't watch Hobbs and Shaw, so I think we need to
We didn't watch what?
We didn't watch Hobbs and Shaw,
Oh no, we screwed up the
so we need to watch that one. And then
chronological release order.
Then we'll watch Fast X, and then we will officially have seen all of the Fast and Furious movies.
Yeah, which is something we should be proud of.
For sure.
I'm actually surprised, given how ridiculous the series is, how many like big time A-list celebrities they've been able to attract onto that series.
Yeah. I feel like we should do another, because have you seen any of the Mission Impossible movies?
Again, it's like Fast and the Furious, where when they first came out, as a teenager, you watched the first 2 or 3, and then it went into the, oh my god, I can't believe they're still making those territory. So I've probably seen 2.
You were like 7.
Yeah, so I've probably seen 2 or 3 of them.
Oh.
And you haven't seen any,
I've never
right?
seen any. I know Tom Cruise's character's name, and that there's like the really famous scene of him, yeah, like dropping down and
Yeah.
like with the lasers. That is literally the extent of my Mission Impossible.
Yeah.
And that Tom Cruise is fucking crazy and does his own stunts. Like, wild. Like, drives motorcycles off cliffs, but like, actually does it.
No, we have to, I think though, before we do Mission Impossible, we still have to watch season 2 of The Bear.
Oh, yeah.
That's been exceptional. So we have to get caught up with that. And I've personally really been enjoying the new Walking Dead spin-off Daryl Dixon where he's in
There's only been
France.
2 episodes, right?
No, but it's been like
Well, that's what I mean. I have time to catch up.
Quite good.
I'm on the cusp of like getting.
quite good. Whereas, like I've been watching that series since it came out, and watched the spin-offs and whatnot. That's wow. Keep you do you. This is why our floors get covered in botanicals. But also why we have a floor drain. What was I saying? Yeah, Walking Dead. World Beyond was terrible. I mean, all these series kind of ebb and flow between good and dry. Whereas some of them are just always, bad. Oh yeah, Dead City, the one where they're in New York. That one's been okay, but yeah, Daryl Dixon, I'm like quite keen on.
What was it was like a mini series almost. Like there was just like 4 standalone. It was like stories of The Walking Dead or something.
Oh.
Like Terry Crews was in one episode.
Oh, right. I don't even remember what that was called.
That
Okay.
was kind of fun.
Yeah.
It was like totally different.
I don't even remember. Yeah, not a clue.
But then movie time. Or I guess TV time.
Deep time. Yeah, you're weird. You're much more of a reader.
I read. That's the problem. Like the only thing I watched on my own recently was that Red, White, Royal Blue.
Right.
Oh, and I went to the movies to go see
Yes.
Oppenheimer.
Yeah, you're more of a going to the theater type, and I'm more of a TV series type.
Yeah.
Because you spend most of your home time reading, your home downtime, whereas I'm watching TV series. You read fiction, I read nonfiction, but my capacity for nonfiction is always only so much. So therefore, my preferred fiction format is a TV series.
Your PFF.
Yeah, preferred fiction format, PFF. Okay, what's next? Do you want to do a pretty one?
Yeah, let's do Cardi. I think there's only one.
You gotta speak up a little bit over the dishwasher.
I think there's only one bucket of cardamom.
Yeah. Ooh la la.
Ooh, ah.
Ah, so pretty. Oh, so you don't just dump all that on the floor?
Yeah.
Yeah. Very loud. Is it done now?
It's that.
Previously, when we were just learning about how to process different botanicals, when we were making our cardamom and citrus tonic water, cardamom was pretty well the first one that we started to experiment with. And the neat thing about cardamom is the bulk of the flavor is really in the little black seeds inside of the green pod. But once that pod is cracked open, the flavor and aromatics are very fleeting. So you really shouldn't buy cardamom that's been depotted because you're not going to get much flavor versus buying it in the green pod, which is why it's more often sold in the pod. And I took that super literally. And what did we have to do when we made originally our cardamom citrus tonic?
We crushed the pods and then we separated the pods.
How did you crush them?
I think with a grinder or
It was a mortar and
or a
pestle,
mortar
wasn't
and
it?
pestle
Yeah.
at the very beginning.
And then ran it through a sieve and filtered and got all the bits out, and we're just left with these little tiny seeds. And how long did that take you?
Hours. Sorry, I shouldn't swear. Hours.
Yeah.
So like 5 hours. It was so dumb.
And then after a couple times doing that, or maybe more than a couple times,
Many times.
basically tried to figure out, hey, could we just use could we just run it through a coffee grinder basically, crack open the pods, but still do the extracts with the outside green shell. And that is what they do all the time in Indian cooking and Indian cuisine, where they'll just crush the whole pod and put that into the curry or whatever, and no problem. So I did a side-by-side extract test of our cardamom citrus tonic water with just the seeds and then the crushed pods, and there was no discernible difference.
All of those hours.
Yeah. So now we have a larger grinder, but we just we don't fully grind to a powder. We just grind enough to break them up and break up the pods so we can get access to the seeds. But honestly, the pods provide nice flavor and a nice little green color too. I found. What's this one? Cinnamon. And cinnamon, same thing. I mean, to be honest, that's with all herbs, spices, botanicals, is their flavor will decrease over time and with exposure to oxygen. Surprise, surprise. So we do the same thing with our cinnamon. Instead of buying ground cinnamon, we buy whole, cinnamon sticks, and then with a mallet, we crush them up into finer pieces because I want more surface area. To the greater surface area, the greater extraction you'll get. But at the same time, I don't want too much surface area to the point where it's powdered, because then you're going to get some off flavors. So we go in the middle with our botanicals that need to be processed, cinnamon and berries and cardamom and whatnot. And we just kind of crack and break them up to get more surface area. And we learned that making tonic water.
Making what?
Tonic water.
Yeah. Yeah, it took a while to get here, but we have made progress.
And how come you didn't press that with the potato masher?
Because you can't really press cinnamon sticks.
Yeah, touche.
And so I do this kind of like shake, and there was hardly anything coming off.
Yeah, I also find the liquid, for whatever reason, coming off cinnamon. I'll see if I can get it here. Yeah, it's slightly viscous. I don't know if you can see that, but it... you can kind of tell the viscosity of that a little bit. It's definitely more than water. Haven't looked into what causes that. It doesn't affect anything on our end, but just a little interesting thing. There's things like that, and I think it was flowering red currant did the same thing. It was quite viscous, and every now and again we come across a botanical that changes the viscosity of ingredients. I mean, it might even just be like sugar content or something, but I have a feeling there's something in there.
Yeah, rosehip is really intense.
Well, rosehip didn't increase the viscosity, but the seeds had a ton of pectin in it, so it gelled, which is why we had to discontinue our what was it, rosehip lemon peel bitters, because half of the batch just turned into jelly.
Yeah, we can barely use any of it.
Yeah. Whereas viscosity is not too much of an issue. I mean, cinnamon doesn't surprise me because, you've got things like gum arabic, which, if I'm not mistaken, no, that doesn't come from the bark of I think it's the gum acacia tree. I think it's the sap that you get gum arabic from. I think. Plants. Yeah, magical things. Which one's this?
Licorice root.
Ooh, licorice root, yeah.
This one smells so good. Like, I don't like licorice very much, but this one is.
Well, licorice root is actually legitimately where the licorice flavor of licorice candy comes from, is licorice root.
It just smells so much better. It doesn't smell like black licorice.
Yeah. Well, I think black licorice, it's a mixture of that and high salt content and whatever else they do to make black licorice, but actual licorice root itself is pretty lovely. Before we got this uncapping table, it easily used to take twice as long. How did you used to cut extracts before this?
So basically, we would still dump it into that sieve that's sitting in the table.
Which sieve?
The round.
Oh yeah.
But that would be in a bucket, and then that bucket we would pour into another bucket that had another.
So you'd pour the liquid through the sieve in a bucket. That would do like a coarse filter, and then what?
So more or less, I'm kind of doing the 2 steps now.
Yeah.
Just with these smaller ones.
You would just pour it again through something like this to get out the finer material.
Yeah.
So it was a whole extra step.
But having this like capping table, like for the elderflower, sometimes if the botanicals are too much, you have to like do it in steps.
Or be really careful about
Or
it.
be very careful. This gives a lot more like,
Room for error.
yeah, just like leeway with things that it doesn't actually matter that much.
Yeah. Yeah, you're mostly now using the sieve in there just so you can remove the botanicals from this thing easily. But realistically, we probably could just dump the buckets straight into this.
Yeah, but lifting that out.
It'd be a pain to get all the botanicals out. This makes it easy.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. You don't have to be as like hyper careful about it. Yeah. All right.
Onward we go.
How many of these are you doing today? And
We're almost halfway.
and normally when we're doing this the first time, we then have to add more 24% meat on top of the botanicals. You actually save them all in their respective buckets.
Yeah, like the hyssop.
Yeah.
So that's the first one I did. So I
Right.
saved that, but now this
And we'll
is
add
all
more-
going together.
Yeah, in the compost.
Go into the compost. So.
Yeah. And then once you're done separating all this, we'll then pour out of these buckets into glass jars. So
That's
we
the
can
tricky part too, because you want to get something that is the right size.
to limit
Yeah,
headspace.
so these are all like 3.5. They're a gallon, like 3.5 liters ish. But just various sizes of glass bottles, so that there's very little like room left over in them.
Which is why our herb library shelf looks like this with a whole bunch of different size things, because I mean sometimes okay, we leave a little headspace, but realistically in the grand scheme of things, as long as the majority of what we're doing has limited headspace, we're preserving the aromatics. And to be honest, I'm not really that concerned too much about oxidation. I often find it actually adds some flavor complexity. If you're dosing it in rather than kind of, you don't want to oxidize an entire batch, but if you have components that are oxidized, it can actually improve a product, I find, in a lot of ways. I mean, hell, there's a whole bunch of, wine styles that are, purposefully oxidized, but that's a story for another day. You have some stairs. Okie dokie. I'm going to go do my work now. Tiddly.
Yay.
Bye.